Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. We're going to start with two TV personalities tonight. The first is Katherine Helmond, who died recently at the age of 89. She started out on the stage, but she's best known for being a supporting actress in four of the most popular television series of the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. Soap, Who's the Boss, Coach, and Everybody Loves Raymond. She was sort of typecast as a dotty older lady, sometimes sex star, but earlier in her career she did a brief turn on Car 54, Where Are You Once, and she played a psychologist in the Bob Newhart show doing marital therapy for Bob and Emily once. She did a great turn in the movie Brazil as Jonathan Pryce's mother, playing, of course, a dotty older lady. But as I said, her main roles were the great supporting roles she did on those TV sitcoms. Here she is in Soap opposite Billy Crystal, who was playing a groundbreaking role as the first openly gay character on television.
Well, Jody, so you're going to get married, huh?
Yeah, it looks that way.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
I guess that means you're not gay.
No, Aunt Jessica, it doesn't.
You know, Jody, when we were younger, there was no such thing as homosexuals.
Yes, there were, Aunt Jessica. The homosexuals go way back in history.
Who?
Alexander the Great was gay. Plato was gay.
Plato? Mickey Mouse's dog was gay?
Aunt Jessica, would you be very offended if I didn't continue this conversation?
I
That's more or less the character that Katherine Helmond played for the next 20 years, but she did a good job at it. We're going to move on to our next television character, one-time heartthrob Luke Perry, who died recently at the age of 52. He starred as Dylan McKay in the 1990s hit Beverly Hills 90210, and here's Entertainment Tonight to talk about his career.
For a generation of TV viewers, just a few notes from the theme song of Beverly Hills 90210 brings back memories of Dylan McKay.
Let me tell you something, just so you know in advance. I'm not in a good mood today.
Actor Luke Perry shot to stardom as a reluctant heartthrob on the blockbuster hit, going up close and personal in the lives of a group of high school teenagers. With that trademark squint, those sideburns, and a bad boy attitude, Perry would define cool for the 90s.
I don't do cameras.
Decades later,
To build a safe life for you.
he introduced himself to a whole new generation of viewers on the current hit show, Riverdale. The actor recently reflecting on his career in this interview with Entertainment Tonight.
The most important thing for you is to be a happy, balanced person that can come to work and do your job well. If you get too obsessed with all the things that are being said to you and about you, it kind of takes your focus off the work.
Despite becoming synonymous with the rich and famous of Beverly Hills, Perry was born in Ohio and headed to Los Angeles right after high school, working odd jobs until he got a break.
So all I can do is make you feel better.
One of his earliest roles on the soap opera Another World.
Have lunch with me today.
90210 would come soon after, Dylan McKay catapulting him to teen idol status, despite the fact that he was in his mid-20s.
The minute that Dylan McKay, the character, walked onto the screen, he was something different. He was the cool kid on the show of cool kids. It's not like Dylan McKay was this revolutionary idea of coolness. Let's be honest, he was James Dean from Rebel Without a Cause. But he was that for a new generation that hadn't necessarily grown up with James Dean.
90210 is one of the biggest hits in the teenage genre that's ever hit TV. 90210 created a ton of breakout stars, people who back in the 90s literally could not walk anywhere without being stalked and swarmed by fans, swarmed by paparazzi.
Capitalizing on his TV fame, Perry made the jump to the big screen in 1992
Hi.
Hi.
for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He would go on to earn critical acclaim for his turn as real-life bull rider
Okay, boys.
Lane Frost in the film 8 Seconds. In an effort to find more film work, Perry left 90210 in 1995. He would return 3 years later for the show's final season. Television provided steady work over the next decade with roles on the HBO prison series Oz.
Life, in general, here in Oz.
Even poking fun at his past work on animated series like The Simpsons.
I didn't know you knew Luke Perry.
Perry had been in the midst of a resurgence, a new generation of fans getting to know him on Riverdale.
It is to me, son.
Another TV teen drama, but this time Perry playing the father.
Luke Perry was introduced to an entire audience of teens right now who actually have no idea what Beverly Hills 90210 is, which has become a huge hit really in the Netflix era. Luke Perry has had a ton of roles, but his legacy is truly going to be 90210. He never shied away from that. He was one of the biggest teen heartthrobs on one of the biggest teen shows of all time.
Before we move on, let's clarify one thing. He was a heartthrob, but he was nowhere near the actor James Dean was. We're going to move on now to Kevin Roche, who died recently at the age of 96, one of the world's leading architects. Nice Irish boy born in Dublin, came to the United States to study architecture. He was accepted at Harvard, Yale, and IIT. He decided to go with IIT here in Chicago to study under Mies van der Rohe. He went on to design or plan over 200 projects, including 8 museums, 38 corporate headquarters, including the Ford Foundation headquarters, 7 research facilities, and performing arts centers, theaters, and campus buildings for 6 universities. He also designed the master plan for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And in 1982, he won the Pritzker Prize, which is basically the top prize you can get in architecture. He was a character with a charming Irish personality, and they did a documentary about him, and here's the trailer from that documentary.
Welcome to American Architecture Now. Today we'll be talking to Kevin Roche.
He said, "You want a green card?" And I said, "No, I don't think I need one of those." "You might as well take one." He said, "I got lots of them."
Everybody loves Kevin the person. So charming, so Irish. I don't know what you do in the water in there, but it's always amazing.
He'll come in the side door one way, back door another, with ideas you never think about, but they're always concerned with how the building works for the people.
I never think of these things as Kevin Roche buildings. I just happen to be there poking at it, but I'm not the beast. The beast is sitting there resting.
This wasn't a guy that played golf or went sailing. He was architecture 24 hours a day.
Kevin is incredibly important to the history of American architecture in the second half of the 20th century.
For more than 4 decades, he was the architect to the city's greatest art institution. That's unheard of.
Whoever thought of putting lawns and gardens on the roof of the building, making a building as a park, as a landscape?
He really wanted it to be integrated with the surrounding community.
The Ford Foundation had a tremendous impact. I think it changed architectural thinking from that point forward.
Kevin has this saying, ego in architecture is dangerous.
In a way, I wish I'd been a poet because I had a great love for that. It's so much easier because you don't have clients.
We're going to move on to our feature, Tony Mendez, who died recently at the age of 78, a real-life CIA spy who masterminded a brilliant plan to smuggle 6 American hostages out of Iran after the Iranian hostage crisis in 1979. Those 6 hostages took refuge in the Canadian embassy, and Tony Mendez concocted a plan that they were part of a Hollywood movie. The ruse worked, the hostages were rescued, Tony Mendez was congratulated by President Carter, but it remained a secret for 17 years until CIA Director George Tenet persuaded Mendez to go public with the story, and Ben Affleck made it into the award-winning film Argo. Here is Matthew Bannister, the BBC4 Last Word, with the story of Tony Mendez.
That's the theme music from the Oscar-winning Hollywood film Argo, directed by and starring Ben Affleck. It was based on the real-life story of a CIA operation in the Iranian capital Tehran in 1980. The agent at the center of that operation was Tony Mendez, who's died aged 78. Mendez, who'd started his career as a graphic artist, specialized in forging documents and creating new identities for other agents.
I was always an artist. For 25 years of my life, I was a spy, and if you have to make a living, that's a pretty good way to do it.
Peter Ernest is a former CIA operative who founded the International Spy Museum. He told me more about the department where Tony Mendez worked.
The CIA has an office, if you will, called the Office of Technical Services. And in that office, they have a group that deals with documentation. And this might be trying to prepare documents, let's say in the instance of trying to paper someone in order to exfiltrate them from a country.
So faking passports, that kind of thing.
That's that sort of thing.
So I had a great job where I could apply the skills of an artist, and a lot of times those skills were the creative management of problems.
Actions of Iran have shocked the civilized world. Our embassy has been seized and more than 60...
At some point, students, they said students, but had rushed the American embassy and taken over the American embassy and taken hostage all of the individuals in there, most of them actual diplomats. And there were something like 52 of them, and 6 individuals who had been in that complex, the embassy complex, managed to get away. And they had hidden themselves in the official residence of the Canadian ambassador.
You've got Revolutionary Guards going door to door. These people die. They die badly. White House wants the 6 of them out.
The challenge was, is there any way we could get these individuals out of Tehran at the height of this very turbulent period?
So Tony Mendez was put in charge of trying to get these 6 personnel out. How did he set about it?
One of the things Tony had done prior to this time, he had been in touch with an individual named John Chamberlain. John Chamberlain was a specialist in disguise, special effects in Hollywood, and they had discussions about the situation. And between them, they devised a plan.
I got an idea. They're a Canadian film crew for a science fiction movie. I fly into Tehran. We all fly out together as a film crew.
Need a script?
Argo, science fantasy adventure. Moonscape, Mars.
We ended up creating this elaborate cover of a Hollywood motion picture location scouting party, because who else would go to Tehran at that time looking painfully North America but Hollywood folks? They don't care about the politics.
Tony and one other individual in his office, who has never been identified, traveled to Tehran under disguise. Now, if they had been caught, they might well have been executed.
So he had to go to where these people were hiding out and train them in their new roles as members of a Hollywood production company.
That's correct. And
was that difficult?
I think the people who were hiding out they went along with it. I think Tony was sufficiently credible that they believed that they had a chance of working with this man. And so he got them to sort of loosen up and be a little more Hollywoodish.
I had a dossier for each one of them, which was part of the portfolio, the cameraman, the set designer, and so forth. So that's part of their disguise. I said, okay, you got 3 days to learn this, and you'll be interrogated on Sunday night. Hostile to interrogation.
What's your job on the movie?
Producer.
Associate producer. What's the last movie you produced?
High and Dry.
Who paid for that?
CFTC.
What's your middle name? What's your middle name? What's your middle name?
Leon?
Shoot him. He's an American spy.
The senior member of the group, Bob Anders, was your typical bureaucrat when I met him. When I saw him again, he was Fellini.
And how did it go once they started the journey trying to make it out of Tehran?
There were a lot of Iranian intelligence people around looking for precisely this sort of thing. That is, somebody coming in going who shouldn't be there. And it went relatively smoothly. There were some hitches, including the fact that the Swiss airplane that was to take them out was delayed by an hour coming into Tehran, and that was just a real nail-biter for them.
Yeah, they must have been on tenterhooks while that was happening.
I'm sure they were.
And the Oscar goes to Argo. Congratulations.
Was it difficult for Tony to tell the story, having kept it secret for so many years?
He was very pleased that the event and the success had been publicized, but I think there was always an element for him of being a little bit uncomfortable because he was so used to keeping secrets. So many of the operations he had been involved in were not declassified and never would be.
We say that really good spies have to be romantic. You have to be romantic because you're not going to be able to tell anybody what you did, even though you saved the world today. You just have to get your approval from within.
Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Tepps. And as a final tribute to Tony Mendez, a real-life spy, we're going to have Al Stewart sing a little bit about a spy in his song, The Year of the Cat.
On a morning from a Bogart movie, in a country where they turn back time, we go strolling through the crowd like Peter Lorre contemplating a crime.